So for today's live cooking demo, we are doing a little Taco Tuesday, because it's Tuesday, meets Cinco de Mayo, because it's Cinco de Mayo tomorrow, and also Mother's Day, because it's Mother's Day this weekend. And so the recipe that we are cooking up today can be used for your tacos. It can be a really delicious kind of side dish, appetizer, snacky thing for a Mother's Day barbecue. So on our menu today is mango salsa. And I'm excited about this because this salsa recipe can really be made with lots of different kinds of fruit. So it's not just, you don't have to use mango if you don't like mango, if you can't find mango. This salsa recipe works really well with pineapple, with peaches, with any kind of berry. So salsa, it's kind of a fun thing. I like to do fruit salsas because it shows you a different way to use fruit, right? We often think of fruit as being something sweet and using it in desserts, but fruit can work really well in lots of different savory kinds of dishes too, and salsa is one of them. So especially moving into warmer weather and hopefully some barbecues and all of that kind of good stuff, salsa is always there on the table, so we can switch it up a little bit and try some different fruit salsas. So today I'm going to demo how to make the mango salsa. And it's really just a few simple ingredients. So we have mangoes. We're using 2 fresh mangoes, red onion, a scallion, but you don't need the scallion. So I'm using red onion and scallion. You don't need to use both. You can use, if you want to omit the red onion, you can use 2 scallions. You can just use red onion and omit the scallion. So whatever you have on hand there. Some lime juice, jalapeno, which is optional depending on if you like to have a little bit of spice or not, and also, which I can't really hold up, but fresh cilantro. So that's all we need to, oh, and salt, of course, a little bit of salt. So that's all we need to make the salsa. So it's really just a few ingredients. So I'm just gonna move this camera down so I can show you how I am cutting up all of our ingredients, because that's basically all this needs, is to chop everything up and mix it all together. So not too much of a big to-do, not even really cooking, just more so assembling. So I started working on one of my mangoes already. Pull this a little bit closer. Here we go. Okay, so I started working on one of my mangoes. This is my mango pit here, so I'm just setting that aside. That's just skin. So this mango was, and I'm going to show you how to cut the other one from the start, because I know mangoes can be a little confusing how to cut them. These 2 mangoes are pretty small, so this is just a piece that I have left from the first one that I cut. So I'm just going to finish chopping this one up, and then I'll show you how we get here. Now for something like these fruit salsas, especially when you're using fruit like mango or peaches, you want to choose a fruit that's ripe, right? Because you want it to be tasty and sweet, and so you want it to be a bit ripe, but you also want it to still be firm enough that the pieces of fruit are going to hold up well in the salsa. So you don't want like super mushy mango, because it'll just kind of fall apart in the salsa. So with the mango, you can either peel the mango first or keep the peel on. The flesh of the mango is super slippery, so it can get a little difficult if you peel it first and you're trying to cut it. It's a little bit more risky because the flesh is so slippery that it's hard to hold on to in your hand. So I recommend keeping the peel on just for safety purposes. So the reason why a mango can sometimes be more challenging to cut is because it has a huge pit in it. It's a much larger pit than other fruit, right? So this piece here is the pit from the first mango. Now, of course, there's some mango flesh around the pit, and what I like to do is just kind of like gnaw on it and get that flesh off, because it's not going to come off as, you know, for something like the salsa where we're dicing it, it's not going to come off diced well for the salsa, so you can have this as a little snack. But the pit is this length, right? The pit is this whole thing, so it's a pretty big pit. So you do want to take caution of that. So you can't cut right through a mango because the pit goes from the top to the bottom there. So I just kind of approach cutting a mango similarly to an apple, right? Where you're cutting around the core, right? So that's essentially what we're doing. We're cutting around the pit here. So I stand it up on a side, right? On the long side here. And you just kind of cut, you want to go right kind of, you know, right parallel to where that pit should be. And so you might not know right away, you might like try to cut in and hit the pit. That just, you know, then just move your knife over a little bit. So take your best guess, start cutting, and if you hit the pit, you move the knife over a little bit. So this feels pretty good. So I got that side, and then you can see the pit is right there, that kind of white spot. So we went just right next to it. And then the other side, being careful because this is a little unstable, and cutting through that side. So you can see that white spot is the pit in there. So then we can then cut these other pieces, right? So now we have these two really nice halves, and then we can, you know, kind of cut the rest of it. It's hard to know where that pit really starts and ends. See, so it was hard to cut. The pit is all the way here, right? So you just have to kind of play around and feel around. Again, being careful because the flesh of the mango is really slippery. All right, so that's about as much as I'm gonna get off to be able to cut good pieces out of it. So once we have these halves, if you cut avocados, it's kind of similar to cutting up an avocado, right? So sitting it down on the cutting board without cutting all the way through, you can just score the mango, right? Score it in whatever size. We want this, for the salsa, we want these to be, you know, like small diced pieces. So you just score it so that you have all of these nice cubes, right? And then you can just use a spoon, get in there, and scoop all of those pieces out. See, so all those nice cubes just come right out on the spoon. So that, I think, is the easiest way, and it makes it easy when you're holding it in your hand when you still have the peel on, so you can hold it and scoop those pieces out without it being super slippery. Okay, so let's look at that again with the other half. So just scoring it without cutting all the way through the peel. And you can also, you can do this with a paring knife too, a smaller knife, if that's more comfortable. The flesh is soft, right? So you don't need like a super sharp knife to cut through the flesh. So it's all nice and scored, and then just putting a spoon through there, and I'm just putting the mango into a container here. And that's that. Last little piece out that's stuck. Okay, so that's how we can get those nice cubed pieces of mango. All right, I have like some of these extra pieces here, so you can, you know, I can just kind of score these and see if I can get these out with the spoon. But any extra that's not a good dice for the salsa, you can just eat as a snack. So that was 2 mangoes, so that's all we need for the salsa, nice and diced up. Let's cut up the scallion. So for our scallion, we're just gonna use the white and leave the greens you can use as a garnish when you're serving the salsa. So the scallion is just gonna be nice and thinly sliced. Right, and you can think about, you know, when you're making something like this, like if you're ever reading a recipe and you're not really sure how something should be cut, right? Think about how it's being eaten, right? So something like a salsa, of course, is being eaten raw, right? So you wouldn't want super giant pieces of onion, right? Or super big pieces of jalapeno. Even the size of the mango, right? If it just says, if you were reading the recipe and it just said diced and you were like, well, how big, right? Think about a salsa, and if you're scooping it up, you want you kind of would have an idea of what size those pieces of mango should be. So for something like the green onion or scallion here, we want it to be nice and thinly sliced. And then I am going to be adding the other ingredients to a separate bowl where I'm going to assemble the whole salsa, and I will tell you why we're doing that in just a minute. So I'm leaving those greens aside. And then we can pull in our red onion. So for the red onion, we only need about a 1/4 cup of finely chopped red onion. So we're not going to use this whole onion. So I'm just going to first cut off that end, let all of that peel come off, and then cut it in half. And I'm just gonna immediately set half of it aside because I know I'm not gonna use more than half of it. Get the rest of that peel off. Okay. All right. So for our onion, just like I was just saying, we want them to be nice, small, diced pieces, right? Because nobody wants to bite down on a big chunk of onion. So with the onion, we're cutting it first this way. All right, so first we're making these cuts horizontally. The closer together the cuts are, the smaller dice they're going to be. So keeping your hand on the top of the onion and running your knife across without cutting all the way through. All right. Came out a little bit there. Okay, oopsie. Not perfect here. So I made 4 cuts across, and then I hold the onion, you can't really see because the camera's above me, but hold the onion on either side, right? So I'm like pinching it, a pinch grasp here, to kind of hold it together. And then cutting from top to bottom, right, from the root. And same thing, the closer these cuts are together, the smaller the dice is going to be. So as close as you can get these pieces, the less cutting you'll have to do to make them smaller. And then we turn it and we cut it horizontally again. Whoopsie. Being careful. Not like me, I'm not doing a very good job right now. Some onions just don't want to cooperate. Okay, so getting right to that root, just cut through that piece a little bit more. Any pieces that didn't quite make it in there. But so you can see, right, the closer you're able to get those slices, nice small diced onions you'll get. And you can always, like I'm doing here with the pieces that kind of got missed, can always run your knife through them again after they've been diced to get them even smaller. Okay. So that's all the red onion that we need. So I'm gonna add that, and this is actually probably a little bit more than I need. We only need 1/4 cup of this finely chopped red onion. So I'm not even gonna use all of that. I'll use it as a taco topper. Okay. Next thing, we are ready for our jalapeno. When you're cutting a jalapeno, you need to take some precaution that you don't touch your face and don't touch your eyes. So if you are really sensitive to the heat of a jalapeno, wear gloves. That can really help to not get the spice on your hands. So with a jalapeno, I just cut off that very top there and then slice it in half, right, to get that open. We're only going to use half of the jalapeno, so I'm going to set half of that aside. Now all the heat of the jalapeno is here in the seeds and in the rib on the inside. So we want to scoop that out. So I just kind of, and again you can do this with a paring knife instead of a large knife, but I just cut on either side of the rib here on the inside. And just pull it out like that. Okay, so you can cut, you know, there is some more. There is some more pepper there. Okay. All right. So all of those seeds and stuff is where all that heat is. So we can get rid of that. With the jalapeno, we want it to be nice and finely diced also, right? Again, certainly don't want anybody biting on a super giant piece of jalapeno. So we can cut these strips even smaller, right? Being careful, cut those in half. Okay. Okay. And then I'm just going to cut across nice, really small pieces. Okay. So that's all the jalapeno. Okay. So in here now, I have the scallion, the red onion, and the jalapeno. So the reason why I put this in a separate bowl from the mango is we're going to add the lime juice to this mixture first and let it kind of sit for a minute while we get everything else together. The lime juice in here will help kind of mellow the flavor out of the onions and the jalapeno, so it can kind of dilute that flavor since this is a raw salsa. So, again, remember at this point not to touch your face. So we're gonna start with the juice of half of a lime, and I'm just putting pressure on the lime and rolling it to loosen up the juices. So we're gonna start with the juice of half a lime, and then you can add more to taste. So I'm just gonna squeeze that lime right over the onion and jalapenos. Along with a pinch of salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay. Mix that up. All right, and so this is something that you can do actually ahead of time also. I wouldn't recommend, you know, putting the whole salsa too far ahead of time before serving it, because then the mango can start to get a little bit soggy. But this part, you can get this done, especially if you are more sensitive to onions and jalapeno. The longer this sits, the more the flavor will kind of mellow out a little bit. And then when you're ready to serve, you can assemble everything together. Okay, and our last ingredient is going to be our fresh cilantro. So we're gonna add about a 1/4 cup of chopped cilantro. So I already washed this, and to do this, I just kind of, you see, I'm just kind of grabbing all the cilantro into a pile, and then just cut across, right? And kind of, you don't want to handle cilantro too much because it's such a soft herb that it will just get bruised. So you just want to run your knife through it a couple of times just to get it nice and finely chopped. Okay. So that's all we need for that. All right. So that's all of our ingredients, nice and assembled for our salsa. So all it's left to do is put it all together. So to our red onion, scallion, and jalapeno mixture, we're going to add those mangoes. I forgot I had this pushed up closer to me. Okay, so we're gonna add all those mangoes in here. And just really gently toss it all together. And you can also add, if you wanted to add to this, you can add a chopped tomato, like a chopped Roma tomato or plum tomato. You could add some bell pepper in here, whatever your favorite kind of bell pepper is. That would be really yummy. Okay, and then our cilantro. Again, just gently combining everything together. And it's also so nice and colorful. Okay, so any kind of fruit salsa is delicious as is with your favorite dipper, right? Your favorite tortilla chips or whatever you like to dip in salsa. They're also delicious with some sort of protein, so over a piece of grilled salmon or chicken breast or with shrimp, however you want to enjoy it. You could also add, add fruit salsa to a salad or something, add a nice scoop on top of the salad. But that's it. Whoops, I almost flung the whole thing. So that's our mango salsa. Now the color is not looking as vibrant as it is in person, but that's our mango salsa. Super simple to make, just a few ingredients. At this point too, you can taste it and add more lime juice if you want, add more salt if you feel it needs it. But that's kind of where I start, and then you can build on the flavors to your preference, to how you like it. So that's it for our fresh mango salsa. Like I said, it's a little Taco Tuesday meets Cinco de Mayo meets Mother's Day barbecue. So hopefully you will get some use out of this fruit salsa sometime soon. It's a great thing, like I said, as it's getting warmer, especially in the summer when there's even more fruit available. It's fun to just kind of mix it up and add different fruits into a salsa, but you can really kind of use this same general recipe, the same gathering of ingredients using any, different kinds of fruit. Please share this video if you think that anybody, if you know anybody who loves a good salsa and maybe wants to give this mango salsa a try.